Hello everyone, today is going to be the first installment on how to retrofit adaptive cruise with Stop Plus Go onto your F30 BMW. This is the vast majority of the parts, at least I need for my personal vehicle. Two key exceptions: I am missing the steering wheel control set for the steering wheel for the adaptive cruise, and also I am missing the brake pump because I bought the pump used from overseas. I installed it immediately to make sure it worked, and that's now currently fitted to my car and bled. But for this retrofit, at least for my personal car, you're going to need a trim piece. An OEM trim piece is about 120 bucks or whatever. To save some money, I got this aftermarket one for 35 bucks, which I think is fine. Like I'm a big component of buying OEM genuine parts, but for a little trim piece, to save that amount of money, I think it's worth it. You're going to need your sensor, you're going to need your sensor bracket, you're going to need a bunch of connectors, screws, bolts, etc. And also, which is really nice, they make these repair harnesses. So this is the front bumper harness that has your PDC sensors and also the adaptive cruise sensor, and it's all nice wrapped up, and it goes to where these plugs go on the fender right below the headlight corner light, and then from there the factory PDC harness wire from the car will plug in there, and then I'm going to make a harness through the engine bay that does power, ground, and then the CAN bus communications between the car and the sensor. Now I'm lucky because I have an M Sport car. Not only an M Sport car, I have an M Sport car with EDC, or the electronic shocks. So my ICM module already supports adaptive cruise, so I need to buy another ICM module. And the M Sport cars, the front clip already has the screw holes for the bracket, so I don't need to buy a new front clip. If you're doing this on a regular F30 without EDC or without the M Sport package, you're going to need to buy an additional front little clip supporting bracket thing. And you're also going to need to buy another ICM module, which is going to add cost. I'm lucky. Right now, I think I paid $850 for all these parts, which I got a deal on the brake pump. You would not be able to find a used brake pump. They're very rare, very difficult to get, at least for my car, because my car was built before 2013. If you have a newer car, it's considered the LCI brake pump, even though it really isn't, but it's the updated brake pump style. And those brake pumps are a bit more common, and you can kind of find them used. Typically, they're about between $500 and $1,000. The pre-LCI brake pumps they used in late 2012, from the beginning of production in about 2012 to about halfway through production 2013. They're astronomically rare to find. I had to buy one from Latvia, and I paid a good, $400 or $500 for it shipped over here. So that's really the biggest deterrent to this retrofit, is finding a brake pump. A new one, I believe, is about $2,000 from the dealership, which that's not really viable. But if you just keep looking, I'll put the part numbers in the description. You can set like a watch list reminder on eBay or whatever, so you can find one. And if you do, grab it, and then you can start this retrofit. I had this on my F10 5 Series. The system works excellent. I also had the long-range only adaptive cruise system called ACC2, made by Bosch, on both my E90s. And, that works really well, but it didn't stop the car completely, and it didn't really work in heavy traffic. But this does. I had it on my F10. That sensor's actually for my F10 when I dumped the car because the engine was shot. I took a whole bunch of crap off that car, including the sensor. So I'm going to use that today. Well, anyway, next clip, I'm going to go to the car. I'm going to show you the brake pump installed, and then I'm going to start installing 4 new wheel speed sensors. And a quick note, I think the OEM ones are like $150, $200 a sensor. I got these off Rock Auto, which they're 80E nice OEM or OE sensors. I think they're about $40, $50 a pop. So that's also another huge cost savings that I incurred while gathering all the parts. So out in the garage, I just took this cover off. Here is the new Adaptive Cruise DSC pump. Basically, when you're looking for this little thing that says ACC that you can barely see is what differentiates an adaptive cruise pump with a non-adaptive cruise pump. So I'm sure there's a lot of these out in the US that junkyards have. They don't even know what it is. So these are very, very, very difficult to find. Just keep looking and eventually you will find them. But, you know, this part can be anywhere from, you know, $400, $500 to $1,000 or more. So, you know, they do cost a pretty penny. And I would say finding one of these pumps is the biggest challenge for this retrofit. But this is already fitted and installed. And also just noticed that my brake fluid is pretty much over the max on the tippy top as well as my coolant reservoir. So I needed to go siphon some of the fluid out. But for now, I'm going to jack up the car on all fours. I'm going to install the wheel speed sensors, and also the previous owner decided to rattle can the brakes. So my brakes squeak, the pads, the actual pads or rattle can, and they squeak. So I'm going to be lubing them up so they don't get a squeak anymore. Well, so I got the car jacked up and then the wheel off, and the sensor runs between this junction box. The one's your ABS sensor, the one's your brake pad wear center. It runs around the hub, this wire, and then there's a T27 screw right there that holds the sensor in, and that's how you get it out. It's pretty simple to replace. Well, so I got the original sensor out and the bolt. As you can see, you know, up to about this bit, the sensor is the same length, but this is the new one, significantly shorter than the OEM one. So I hope this fits. If not, I'm gonna be ordering a different one. Well, after comparing the part and checking out the part number, it turns out that these are the incorrect front wheel speed sensors, which is a bummer. So I'm returning these to Rock Auto, and I found an eBay seller selling the set of the correct ones for about $100. So I placed an order on that, and then for the time being, I'm going to put my factory sensor back in and tackle this another day. I'm still going to go attempt to install the rear ones. Actually, it'd probably be a good idea to check and make sure these are the correct ones before I jack up the rear of the car and waste more time for parts that don't fit. But it's a new day. I'm going to start cracking on the rear wheel speed sensors. Yesterday, we found out that the front ones that Rock Auto said would fit this car are the wrong ones, and I've ordered the correct ones on eBay, and they should be here in a couple of days. But while I'm continuing to re-lube up all my brake calipers because they're all bone dry and they squeak, we're going to be replacing the wheel speed sensor right on the rear. It's easier to get to the sensor itself. It's just the T27 bolt here, and then it runs down this upper control arm and then around the spring in here and then up into here. So I'm going to remove the rear wheel liner to access the sensor. Well, I only had to remove these two 8mm, the two plastic 10mm here and here. And then I was able to pull this back, disconnect it from that little box there. Then there's two little clips there and there. And then there's, I think, 4 little black clips here and here. And now I'm ready to remove the sensor. The bolt's removed, but this thing's stuck in there. If you're doing this, especially like a rusty New York car, make sure just take your time and gradually pry this out. You don't want to give it a yank and then have a broken piece of plastic stuck where your wheel speed sensor will be. That won't be very fun. All right, everyone, it's a new day. I'm going to start fitting the adaptive cruise sensor, and I'm also going to make the wiring harness today. Apparently, there's some fuse box in there that we can power, FNR see it now. There's a ground comb right there. We can also tap power with. So powering the sensor will be really easy. But I gotta go run SCAN lines through the firewall, which was always fun running wires through the firewall. But we'll get it done. If you've never taken apart a BMW bumper before, normally there's this rubber thingy that comes off. There's some T30 screws, and then there's some 8 mils on the bottom, 8 mils on the side, two there, and it should just kind of pop off. It's not terribly difficult. BMW actually makes it pretty easy. Well, got the bumper off. Getting the bumper off physically itself was easier than most cars that I've worked on, but my car has headlamp washers, so there's a connector here, and at first I didn't know how to remove it, but what I found out is basically you take this collar, you push it up, and then you give it a good yank, and it'll come off. But right now I'm working on getting this simple little electrical connector off because I guess it's like rust welded in there. I cannot get it off. It's being really difficult, so I sprayed some WD-40 in there and let it sit for a while, and then give it a good yank, and hopefully it'll come off and get to stripping all the wiring out of the bumper. Well, so got the bumper off, and now we're going to do basically remove the entire parking sensor harness, and you replace it with the new one you bought, and then also you replace the center grill with the new one you got. And I'm curious to see how this fits because it's not OEM, but normally I've had pretty good luck with aftermarket trims and stuff for the bumper. Well, I fitted the trim. I finished fitting the new harness. This looks all nicey nice, and I'm really pleased that BMW makes a repair harness that looks OEM because it is OEM. And then we turn the bumper around. Come on. There we go. Turn the bumper around. We see the new aftermarket trim fitted to the car, and you always know when you're looking at a cool BMW when it has a adaptive cruise cover, or at least I do. So anyway, that fits beautifully. I'm super happy with the fitment of the $35 part. So now we're going to move on to fitting the adaptive cruise brackets to the front of the car. As you can see, BMW already knows that I who bought this car used 7 years after the car was made, that I'm going to be fitting adaptive cruise. So they were kind enough to cut everything out for me. I believe that's where one of the brackets go, the bolts in or whatnot, or goes through. And then up top, once again, there's holes for the adaptive cruise brackets. So super nice of them to provide that when they built the car new. Well, this is the part of the retrofit where you realize the Russian guide you're using to do this is a little bit incorrect. So I'm trying to fit my brackets, and it turns out I need 2 rivets here and here. And then I don't know how this 2 bolts, but one thing that did go well is that the bottom bracket, I do have the bolts and the little sheet metal nuts. So that fits nicely nice, but I'm missing a few parts, so I'm pretty much stuck in the water, at least for mounting the bracket. So I'm gonna start moving on to wiring. Basically, I need to make a harness like this that goes from here into the car, and then there's a fuse box there for power, ground here for ground, and then SCAN that will go into the car. To start the wiring, we're going to tap positive power here, ground here, and then probably send SCAN for this wiring harness. But to pop this fuse box out, all you need to do is take like a screwdriver here, kind of wiggle it out like that, and then you should be able to just pull it, and you're gonna see this is where all the power wires go out into the car. So you're gonna be able to make your wiring harness now. And then, so right now I'm gonna get measurements, and then I'm gonna go back to my workbench, and I'm gonna make the wiring harness. So now I've started the assembly for wiring. I got the glove box out. If you're used to working on older cars like I am, it's a little different. There's a few screws across here. There, you just pop this cover off. There's a screw that screws into here from the outside. And then there's a screw, it screws in from here, here. You get to remove the airbag, the knee airbag, and then with two T30s, and there's another two T20s, one there. And then also to remove the little under panel. It's just two 10mm nuts, and then that pops off. So now there's loads of room for wiring activities, and we get our light here. Where is it? Right there, there's a hole from the fuse box. That's where all the power goes. And then there's your grommet. I'm probably just going to drill through that grommet and then run the wires and then seal it with some black RTV. Same thing with our little ground comb. This ground comb is mounted by a 10mm on this little stud here, which I don't know why and how you would have a ground comb when a bunch of dirty, oily crap gets flung up there. But anyway, there's a few more 8mm little nuts that hold the fender liner on. I remove that, and then you kind of got to go prop apart this ground comb, and there's like a bunch of sticky crap, which I'll have to put more in when I seal it up so there doesn't get any water or moisture, any crap in the ground comb, because I'm sure that would cause a bunch of very difficult to diagnose electrical faults. But the little comb finger here, right here, I pry it off, and then that's where I'm going to be grounding out my adaptive cruise wire. But now I'm ready to go into the basement. I'm going to run this from the connector over here back. So I'm actually going to get tape up power ground and then the S-can wires together, and then I'm going to make this fit this in the car. And once I'll have like a bare wire or a loose wire coming around here. I will trim it the size, put a pin on it, and then that's going to look all nicey nice, all OEM. And, you know, no one will ever know this car didn't come from adaptive cruise from the factory. Okay, so I've started, I guess, the first iteration of this harness. Had to buy this connector. This comes apart, and these are standard female MQS pins. Plus, you need a little like rubber grommet little thing that goes in each hole to keep water out. This is a nice outdoor rated waterproof connector. So I believe 4 is power, 3 is ground, and then I have S-clan plus and minus in 1 and 2. And then I taped this to about here. I'm gonna go tape this connector with the other factory connector, and then I'm gonna get a good idea of how long everything else needs to be. Then I'm gonna cut this to size and put pins on it and install it all nice and factory-like. Okay, so I got my harness up until whatever this little firewall barrier is. This is taped up again, and this is zip tied. It's going to be as OEM as humanly possible. And then I used black zip ties, ran it with the factory wiring down there, and now I crimped on my ground connector here. And then I'm probably going to use some black RTV and just fill this back up again with Sono while water gets in here and corrodes. And then I'm going to snap this together and bolt it back to the car. But next issue is getting the wiring. This is the wiring harness into the car. I'm half tempted to drill a hole into the side of the little fuse box there, and then after I'm done, seal it with black RTV, or maybe drill a hole into that grommet there, seal with black RTV. I'm not quite sure what I'm doing yet, but I'm gonna investigate and I'll let you know what I do. But overall, I'm really happy with how this looks. You know, if I really wanted to, I could tape this entire thing with electrical tape, but I don't think it's necessary. So Okay, so I decided that I just drilled a little hole through the front fuse box, and I'm gonna seal that with some sealant. Not OEM, but I think it's gonna be easier. This is the long run. I'm sure I'm gonna be wiring more crap through the firewall, and this to me, this is a lot easier to do than mess around with the grommets. So anyway, here's your fuse box again. You're gonna look for the fuse little like connector thing that's right here. That is black, and you're gonna be pinning this into connector 4, which this side's 6, this side's 1, and you're gonna be pinning it into the long side. There's also 1 through 6 and 1 through 6A. Make sure you're pinning it through 4, not 4A. So I'm gonna crimp the little connector on here, plug this in, and then essentially we'll have power and ground, and then I'll be able to run the CAN bus through the hole there to the ICM module. Well, it's now the evening, and I'm gonna hopefully wrap the wiring up, maybe the coding, maybe not. We got the power hooked up now, and now we're gonna run the S-CAN, which will be fun because this entire center console has to be removed in order to access the ICM, which is no fun. I go into the greater detail about how to remove this in my Evo video, but basically you pop this trim off, you pop that trim off, you pop the upper trim off, but you feel like you're gonna break it. And then this entire lot will come out after removing 2 T20 screws, and there's 3 T20s here. There's I think 3 or 4 8mm nuts or 10mm nuts here, or bolts, and then 2 10mm nuts down here. And this thing will pop off, and you'll be able to access your ICM to wiring your S-CAN. So the center console's removed. I ran the wire down the factory wiring harness, put some zip ties, and then here's your ICM, and then these 2 wires are going to be pinned to pins slots 32 and 33. Well, I hooked up the laptop. I connected my sensor and bumper just on the ground temporary, and just to see if everything's working. And right here we got module FRR, which is the adaptive cruise control radar sensor. And I did a factory coded it. Also, beforehand coded the instrument cluster ICM and DSC module, and everything's good. So basically all that's keeping this car from working for adaptive cruise control. I need to get some 4mm rivets to bolt the sensor to the car, button everything up, and then install my 2 front adaptive cruise wheel speed sensors, and then possibly get the sensor aimed, probably since this sensor came from an F10, and then everything should be good to go. Okay, I got the rivets from the dealer. They were $5 a piece, so $20 down the drain, and I already grenaded one of the rivets. These tools really aren't meant for that large of a rivet. I had to physically modify this tool, drill out this little bit for the rivet, and then I actually had to remove these 2 long 13mm bolts on either side to pop out the front crash bar. And I finally got the sensor on there, and then I just need to go. I don't know what bolts or whatever hold the other auxiliary bracket on, but the rivets fit in there. I'm gonna rivet them on, and it should be fine. So that's how I'm gonna attach the sensor to the car. I would go at Harbor Freight. They have the exact same tool here. I think it was like $10. I think that's the way to go. Just drill the tool out and modify it and make the rivets fit. It's a lot cheaper than going and getting an actual proper rivet tool just for 4 rivets or whatever. So anyway, I'm gonna put the other rivets back on, and then I'm gonna button everything up, and then we should be ready for the next step of the install. Well, it's another week. I ordered 2 new wheel speed sensors on eBay, and they seem to be a perfect fit. So I'm gonna pop these 2 into the front, and then I also got my adaptive cruise steering wheel controls as well. I got the 2 front wheel speed sensors plugged in and installed. The front bumper is fully bolted back up now. Now it's time to remove the steering wheel and replace the buttons. Basically, all you need to do is take a little screwdriver, poke through the holes for the side of the wheel. The airbag will pop out, and then you can unbolt the steering wheel and replace the buttons. Now, if I know this correctly, there's a T20 bolt there, and there holding the paddle shifters on. All you had to do is remove them, and then apparently you can get back to the access to the bolt that holds the buttons on. Well, I got the new buttons on. I had to remove the little T-trim. There's 2 more T20s there, and then I was able to pop these off and the wire back in. Now I'm just going to reinstall everything, and I'm going to take the car out for a test drive to see if the sensor needs to be aligned or not. What's up, everyone? It's been a couple days. Last time, or the last video clip, I found out that my ICM Plus is not compatible with adaptive cruise. Originally, since on the real OEM diagram on this car, the maximum, I guess, spec ICM you could get was the ICM Plus for cars with adaptive M sensor, which is vehicles equipped with. It turns out I need another ICM called the ICM High, and fortunately enough, I found one in the UK for 200 something bucks. This is the only used one I could find on Earth, and literally I ordered it Monday and it came to my house Thursday. So thanks DHL. This is a bit beat. It looks, I don't think it was in a flood. I think it was rained on at the yard in the UK. So, Global Auto Parts, shame on you. This is a very rare part. But anyway, adaptive cruise ICMs have this thing. This is V5.3. And there's a few part numbers as well for this ICM. And that's how you can tell if it has 5.6 or 1 point whatever or 7.3 or whatever. It's no good. It has to have 5.3. Like I said, this was rained on. I don't think any water got in because there's no corrosion around the little thing. It's only on the outer thing. So fingers crossed it's good. If it isn't good, I'm going to be going to the dealer and spending $1,200 on one of these because there's like I said, these don't exist. So, I'm going to get my center console off and, cross your fingers this works. Well, I got everything coded in and I went out to test the adaptive cruise and we're getting a malfunction. I'm going to try flashing the ICM and the sensor to the latest I-step. I'm hoping that the F10 firmware, because the sensor was from an F10, is the reason why it's not working. If not, this will need to be aimed by a dealer, and I believe it's rough ballpark around $400 to have them aim it, which it is what it is. So I'm gonna do some more tests with ISTA, and I'm gonna get my center console back together, and then once I get back home where I can go flash the modules, I'll give it a go and see if it fixes the issue. Well, so I'm flashing my radar sensor now and the ICM. Hopefully this will fix the adaptive cruise issues. Like I said, the sensor did come from an F10, so hopefully it'll take this flash and everything will work right. I'm also flashing my DME for the M-Power kit. If you're watching that, if you did watch that video, I'm doing this all at the same time. So well, everyone, I think I buggered up my adaptive cruise sensor trying to aim it at home. I would not recommend aiming it at home, and I'm not even going to put that bit in the video now, but I tried aiming at home like I did with the E90 long-range only Bosch adaptive cruise sensor. That worked really well, but these are a bit more complicated, so I went out and bought another sensor. This actually is from an F30 from overseas, so hopefully the adaptations are already set and it'll be good to go right out of the box. So I'm going to go jack the car up again and fit this and see if I can get the adaptive cruise to go. Okay, everyone, the adaptive cruise is working, which is super cool, but this definitely does need to be aimed in more of a bumper-to-bumper stop-and-go traffic situation. The system's working quite well, but whenever you're up the speed, maybe 40, 50, 60 miles an hour, it's having an issue where it won't detect the car in front of me is braking until it's too late. Then at the last second, it'll be needing to manually slam on the brakes. So there's some quirks to work out, but it is working. I'm following a riced out E93 35i in front of me, and it is, as I'm going in the line of traffic, slowly braking. Like here, this car is turning, so it's definitely braking. Then I'm going to take over to go around him, because it's so, and there it beeped because if I was going to have an accident, and then I can hit resume. But I'm super pumped that this new sensor is working. I don't know why my original sensor that was in my F10 threw some nonsense error. I mean, it worked in just fine in the F10, and it didn't work in here. So anyway, this sensor's from an F30. So I would try to go in Europe, find a seller from Eastern Europe with the brake, the ABS pump, the ICM, and the sensor all from an F30. I think you have a better luck with that. I'm going to ring up my dealership tomorrow and see how much they'll charge for a sensor alignment. See, right now we're going to a complete stop, and in bumper-to-bumper traffic, it will bring the car safely to a complete stop, which is, excellent. So it's working a lot better than the E90 long wheelbase. See, right now we're at 7 miles an hour, and we're at a complete stop. So anyway, I'm going to play this around. I'm super excited. And then when I get back home, I'll make a little follow-up, wrap-up video if I don't get the sensor aimed. Apparently, it's a pain in the ass to aim. About 5 hours of labor at $200 an hour. That might not be worth it, but at least for traffic jam situations, the system's working pretty well. Well, everyone, that's a wrap for the Adaptive Cruise series. I'm so happy. I'm so thankful that everything's working now. I was very worried that I was actually going to need to spend quite a bit of considerable amount of money having the sensor aimed. I don't know why my other sensor, wasn't working. But once again, this is the name of the retrofit game. When you're doing stuff like it has to be really complex, like adaptive cruise, there's a lot of variables in the system that need to be worked out. It can get very stressful and complicated, and things are not going to work. Things are going to piss you off, but you just need to keep your head in the game and make it happen. I can't wait to test this out. I'll be driving 28 hours to Denver at the end of this month, and this is going to be super helpful battling with congestion and traffic jams. That's what you mainly use it for. In a free highway, like when it's a free moving highway, I normally drive the car myself. But whenever a traffic jam, either on a highway or on a surface street, you set the thing on and just sit there and let the car do it. You arrive at your destination so much more well refreshed. And well, that's the wrap for the video. Once again, I think I learned after I filmed this little outro that the sensor does need to be aimed. It does work better. I've noticed that when I was following a UPS truck, it worked perfect. It worked fantastic. But when you're following a regular car or a smaller car, the sensor can get a little wonky and janky. So it definitely does need to be aimed. I actually called around my local body shop that I have, that I know someone there that I've done, some paint work before, and he recommended 2 places local to me, and I called the one, and they can aim it for actually $250 they quoted me, but the problem is that they're booked up until July, and I'm leaving and moving to Denver in late June, so that's not going to work. So I'm going to see if I can get someone to actually aim my sensor before I leave, but I don't think it's going to be the case because I'm actually super busy the next couple of weeks before I leave. So I'll probably just drive the car out there as is, and then hopefully once I'm in Denver, I can probably find someone to go aim it for me, but you know, I don't know any shops out there, so that's going to be a bit of a struggle. If you know any good shops for BMWs out in the Denver area, put a comment and help me out, because I there has to be at least one good person out there. It's a huge city, but you know, it's also in the middle of the West, and everyone there drives a Toyota 4Runner or a Subaru. But anyway, I'm super pumped everything's working now. Like I said, this is a pain in the ass. There's a lot of hiccups, a lot of excess money. Before I go, I really want to retrofit blind spot monitoring and 360 cameras or top view. So I purchased everything I need for that. And tomorrow I'm going to get cracking on getting that going. It shouldn't be terribly difficult. It's mainly just finding parts, but you'll hear about in the other video. This video is already egregiously too long. I will not shut up and compress things down, but this is how I am. Anyway, if you like this video, you know, consider subscribing and giving a like. This is a lot of learning. This isn't really an entertainment channel, but if you have any interest in doing retrofits, you know, you learned what I learned in a month of research in about 30 minutes. So anyway, thanks for watching.